News Central now begins in West Africa, where the primary of the All Progressives Congress has ended. We understand that some of the stakeholders in the election have been crying foul over how the election committee handled the electoral process. The aggrieved party members alleged that the committee, which was headed by the Kogi state governor, Mr. Usman Ododo, was biased in the assignment. Ododo, who arrived in the state on Saturday morning, addressed some of the aggrieved stakeholders at the distribution center in the Dapo area of Akure, saying the electoral materials had been sent to the Ondo South and South-North Senatorial districts, remaining that of Ondo Central as at 10:30 a.m. local time. But one of the aspirants, Gbenga Edema, disagreed with the governor, saying no election material was taken to anywhere. Similarly, the program officer of the Wale Akinterinwa Campaign Organisation demanded the cancellation of the whole exercise, alleging that the primary election committee was not fair with the process. In the same vein, Rotimi Ogunleye, media aide to the aspirant Chief Olusola Oke, said the committee failed to follow the guidelines of the election.
You will recall that yesterday at the stakeholders meeting, held at St. Thomas Event Center, the secretary of that committee that came from Abuja, Senator Agrieved, informed us that collection of voting materials, which include the register of voters, that is the the membership register, the result sheet, and all the materials required for the election will be distributed to the electoral officers, whose name he announced to us in each of the 203 wards of Ondo State, that they should come to Bond Hotel, collect their materials. Accreditation will start by 10 o'clock to be completed by 1 o'clock. Voting proper will start from 1 o'clock and ends 2 o'clock. Then announcement of result. As I am talking to you now, this is 10:30. At 10:30, we have waited here since 6:30, believing that our people will collect the materials. Unfortunately, at about 9:30 a.m., His Excellency the Governor of Kogi State, His Excellency Ododo, came out to tell us that materials have been distributed. At what time, in what places, we don't know. Unfortunately for him, the returning officer and the electoral officer of my ward, Mahi Ward 2, Ilaje local government, who are resident in Ibadan, I told them to come here today so that they can collect the materials from my ward. Now they are here, they have not been able to collect the materials, and he had the infantry to tell us, all the other aspirants, that materials have been collected and results have been announced at 10 o'clock when accreditation should ordinarily start. So we have asked the question, and he blushed us and he rushed out because he had no answer to our question.
The Ondo State Governor, Lucky Aide, has expressed satisfaction over the turnout of the party members to select their preferred candidate in the governorship primary of the All Progressive Congress in the state. In the primary, held across the 203 wards and 18 local government areas of the state, no fewer than 16 aspirants participated in the exercise. Speaking after being counted in the voting exercise, Ugbo Ward 4, Obenla, allege local government area of the state, the governor described the party primary as a crucial step in determining the APC's flag bearer for the forthcoming governorship poll. The governor said he was confident in the democratic process and reiterated his commitment to upholding the principles of transparency and fairness in the party's selection of candidates.
In that oil-rich community, the land of my birth, Obenla, to exercise my right to vote and to be voted for, to be the flag bearer of our party, the All Progressive Congress, APC, in the forthcoming gubernatorial election. And as you can see, the turnout is so huge. I'm not expecting anything less, because this is where I was born, this is where I started my primary school, and I'm so happy also to see some of my classmates, at least 2 of them, they are here today to also welcome me to be part of this exercise. So it's been a great excitement for me to be here. And it actually took me back to the memory lane when I started from here. Yes, a lot of things are different from what it used to be, but I could still identify with the grass, with my background, as it were. So I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank all of them, all our people that have come out from, in a large number to be part of this exercise.
Meanwhile, violence broke out at Ward 1 at Stella College, Okitipupa, between rival supporters of two aspirants of the All Progressives Congress, who are contesting to be the party's candidate for the November 16th Ondo State governorship election. Accredited party members who had gathered in large numbers to participate in the candidate selection process fled the scene when violence erupted among the rival factions. According to reports, the accreditation and election process had not begun when the violence erupted as voters campaigned for safety. One of the accredited voters, who preferred anonymity, disclosed that one of the agents of an aspirant came to the ward, snatched the validation and accreditation papers, and ran away. The security agents at the ward were unable to contain the violence, and everyone fled the scene.
After waiting for about 3 hours at the press center alongside other journalists that are here at the state capital of Ondo, Akure, we are somewhere called the Dapo. And just as you can see behind me and everywhere, journalists scattered across from various places across the state gathered here. We heard this was supposed to be the coalition center, only to get here and nothing is happening. In fact, the security presence shows that nothing is happening here. The media does not have access to information as to where the coalition center will be or might be in the nearest hours or even in the future. The information reaching us says that the announcement will happen at 7 a.m. tomorrow, but it has not been confirmed yet. We also heard that it might hold sometime later. But one thing is sure, once we have that information, we'll get it across to you and broadcast it live on News Central. In Akure, Ondo State capital, Ni Omani.
That's the latest there from our correspondent on ground, Ni Omani, on the Ondo State APC primaries. While still talking politics, the founder of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Boniface and Naanam, says the move by the former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and the Kwakwansia movement to hijack the party structure is a betrayal of trust. Speaking at a news conference in Lagos on Friday, Dr. Naanam said he gave Kwakwanso the platform of the party on a platter of gold to achieve his political ambition of becoming Nigeria's president. He said he single-handedly registered and nurtured the NNPP from 2002 to 2022 when Kwakwanso and his team approached him to fly the flag of the party in the 2023 presidential poll. Naanam said Kwakwanso and others were expelled from the party for anti-party activities, but as a life member of the board with inherent powers, it would grant him pardon if he purged himself of what he was doing. Earlier, public affairs analyst Ismail Awal spoke to us on this development.
From his days as governor in 1999 to his second tenure in 2003 and to date. You will understand that Dr. Musa Kwankwaso, the former governor of Kano State, is somebody that don't want to lead. He always wanted to be a leader, like he always wanted to be at the top. So if you follow that trajectory, it will not be completely impossible for the Tribunals to try to hijack the party activities in Nigeria. So going by that, I think Kwankwaso can do that. Of course, even though if you read between the lines of the press conference, or if you follow the press conference, you see that the leader of the party did not clearly spell out what exactly Kwankwaso did to hijack the activity of the party. So I think that's very, very important.
We would, of course, have a chat concerning the happenings in the Ondo State APC Guba primaries. But But for now, let's head to business. We are, of course, in business. Finance Minister Wale Akinterinwa has announced that the federal government is contemplating lowering interest rates to stimulate investment and economic growth. Speaking at the World Bank IMF spring meeting, he outlined plans to enhance government revenue through more efficient tax administration and oil revenues without increasing tax rates. The 2024 budget anticipates a 60% to 70% rise in total government revenue, reducing borrowing needs. Despite criticism, the Central Bank of Nigeria has recently hiked interest rate to curb inflation and stabilize the foreign exchange market. The government and CBN are collaborating to stabilize the economy and make investment more affordable. Now joining me on the news at this time to make sense of this is Kenneth Ikenwa, a business and social policy analyst. Thank you for your time, Kenneth. Now,
Good evening, Dapo. Thanks for having me on.
Great. Now, how feasible is enhancing government revenue through efficient tax administration and oil without increasing the tax rate?
All right, given the realities of the present economic structure of Nigeria vis-a-vis what is obtainable in other climes, one would have said from a textbook analysis that it is very, very possible. And how does that happen? It means that we need to expand the economy by putting in incentives and the necessary infrastructure in place, removing the market constraints that will expand economic activities in the country. Also, these incentives and the removal of these constraints will also boost investment in the country. So when those trajectory and that goes up on the map, it translates into greater revenue for the government and for the governments, the subnational governments and local governments. And that means that by making more money or any more revenue, there will be no need for the government to increase taxes. So it is very possible. But you see, what obtains in other climes and what are usually textbook theories do not necessarily apply to the Nigerian situation, because our structure, our tax structure is very complex, our economic structure is very complex, and we must look at policies that are particular and peculiar to our social structure and dynamics, so that if the taxes are needed, they could be increased, or if the taxes are not needed, going forward, it's possible for us to make more money as a country. And the government has everything it takes in place to make this happen.
Now, the Nigerian 2024 budget anticipates a 60 to 70% rise in the total revenue of the government with an aim at reducing borrowing. Are we already on that path, to achieving this particular feat?
Well, we can say that we are on that path, yes. I think the present policies that this present government is putting in place is trying to de-emphasize borrowing. But what has happened in the last couple of months and what the government has actually resorted to in trying to stabilize the economy has amounted to it going back on its words of borrowing. So is it possible for an economy to actually function without borrowing? No. Even the American country is highly indebted internally and externally. But what I can see from the statistics on ground is that there is the practical significance in the impact of policies that are to stem borrowing. But what is the real significance of these policies on the lives or standards of living of the Nigerian people? So we weigh the impact of these policies when we look at it from how they actually impact the Nigerian people and the Nigerian economy positively. Good trajectory we are on right now, but the gains, I think, are still very, very far in the future. So we will continue to be a borrowing nation, especially when we have a constitution that permits other subnationals to borrow and rely on the federal government as a collateral signatory. So I think one of the things we need to do to stem the tide of borrowing is to curtail how subnationals and other local governments can have the access to go out externally to borrow money from foreign organizations. Once we can have a concerted policy on all of this, we could actually succeed in stemming that tide of borrowing, which is contraindicative to our growth as an economy and to our development as a country.
All right. Now, recently, the Central Bank of Nigeria hiked interest rates to curb inflation and also stabilize foreign exchange market. How much of an impact has this had?
Well, that brings us again to what I mentioned. We usually have a lot of textbook analysis when some of these policies are put in place. But let me say, for emphasis, that the best way to actually analyze the impact of interest rate reduction or interest rate hike and how it succeeds in curbing inflation in the country is through what I call the CAMO model. And what is the CAMO model? It's a model that actually measures the behavioral tendencies of certain indicators like consumers, like administrators, like the market, and like organizations. Now, if the government has done everything in place, and I would say, yes, these policies are good ones, they are right in time to actually bring down inflation, what is the behavior of consumers? What is the behavior of administrators or regulators that are expected to regulate certain sectors of the economy? What is the behavior of the market? There's a lot of discrimination in pricing. There's a lot of abnormal profits that are being made by Nigerian entrepreneurs and organizations. And then what is the nature of the behavior of organizations? Now, let me give you an example of something very realistic that affects you and I that could translate into affecting inflation. For instance, where I stay in Lagos, somewhere around Bagodo, you will see that for me, in the last 1 month, I've not been able to get electricity in my house as regularly as I used to. And that is because the organization responsible for distributing electricity in my area has said we should come around and negotiate to go upwards into the premium band. This was ever before the electricity fares were increased. Now, we refuse to do that. As a result, we have been punished. Now, imagine if I ran a business around this vicinity. I would definitely translate the cost of having to run my premises on or back to the consumers. So the behavior of consumers, the behavior of regulators, the behavior of the market, and the behavior of organizations will go a long way in determining the success of government policies. And I think government should actually focus its attention on these CAMO model indicators so that we can actually have the renewed agenda, the renewed hope agenda, be sustainable over time, not just in the short run, but also in the long run.
All right, Kenneth Ikenwa, thank you so much for your contribution on the news and for the power issue in your area. Hopefully it's resolved as soon as possible.
I hope they're listening, and I hope they give us this electricity so that we can increase our productivity, and also that translates to better economic activities. Thanks for having me on that call. Nice seeing you again.
All right, Kenneth, thank you once again. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's take you back to Ondo State, where we earlier brought you up to speed as regards the APC gubernatorial primaries happening in the state. Now, to discuss this further, I'm joined on the news by political analyst and legal practitioner, Okiki Adeniro. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, great. Now, how do the allegations of bias levied against the election committee, particularly its head, that's Governor Usman Ododo of Kogi State, impact on the perceived integrity of the APC primary process in the state? And what implications do you think this would have, as ripple effect?
Well, really talking about bias, I believe that, these things are just speculations. Basically, what we have on ground now is we have a lot of speculations about how the election has been marred with irregularities. There's been issues in at some places that some wards didn't get, election materials on time and other things. But to speak about the bias that's been perceived, I believe that it's just been perceived. It's not been substantiated. So if an allegation is being said, it has to be substantiated. It has to be said that yes, this has been done, and this issue had been nipped in the bud, and this has been seen. As we speak right now, the chairman of that committee has not been seen doing anything wrong, has not been seen, with any ballot paper or any other name written on the result sheet. So we can't say specifically right now that the chairman is biased. And also to say, regarding the implication as regards the integrity of the APC, as it is, politics is politics. There's no perfect election in that sense. You cannot have 100%, at every time. So I believe that right now, until we have the results, until we get to the end of it, you cannot point fingers to say that yes, there's a bias in the process, or probably somebody had to take or had to do something to get a candidate to win the election. So you know, until when we get to the end of this election, then that's where we can, you know, ascertain a bias.
I mean, I'm still going to stay with you on the governor of Kogi State, given his recent role, particularly as regards the drama that unfolded just, you know, a few days ago, recently, that's it, about a day or two ago, that involved the former Kogi State governor, that's Yaya Bello, and the role the current governor, who is the team lead or the chairman for the electoral committee of Ondo State, talking about Mr. Usman Ododo. Some are beginning to question if at all maybe the governor was, you know, somewhat distracted, given the fact that, you know, is a political, well, I call it a father, you know, has been invited by the AFCC and is somewhat on the run. Now, some are beginning to question if at all it was the right man for such a very important and delicate job.
Well, I'll say you can't dictate, you know, in that sense, to the party what they need to do. We can't tell the party what they need to do. They've seen him as the person that can do the job. He's been selected. In fact, it was selected before the issues about his, in quotes, like you said, his father was being put up for an arrest. You get so as it is, we can't say that, oh, probably he was distracted. If he's distracted, that means he'll probably be distracted from his duty as a governor also. And I know that, you know, as it is, people will always say a lot of things based on the fact that it's either it's perceived that their candidates are not, you know, the candidate actually wants as the flag bearer is not being, you know, supported or not being voted in an election. So, you know, as it is, I believe that the chairman was, you know, screened and is capable, and that was why he was selected to do the job he's doing right now.
Now, the demand for the cancellation of the primary exercise by some stakeholders in the state suggests significant dissatisfaction with the process. How might this discontent affect the party's internal dynamics? That's number one, and also its ability to present a united front ahead of November 16th general Guba elections happening in the state.
Well, if the party is not careful, especially APC in Ondo State, if they're not careful and try to resolve all the issues at hand now, they might probably lose some stakeholders, you know, probably to some other party, and, you know, it might cause a lot of issues for them. The most important thing for them to do right now is to try to unite everyone and, you know, ensure that, you know, in politics, you can be sure that when negotiations are being done, you know, there will be a lot of compensations as regards, you know, anybody that spends money or probably looking out to, you know, being a flag bearer or anything. So, I believe that at the end of this, you know, election today, if the parties that are not satisfied and, you know, they probably feel that, yes, they deserve more, you know, the leaders of the party should try to, you know, rally around and ensure that these issues are settled before, you know, they are blown out of proportion. And I'm saying this because, you know, even the parties, the people that are dissatisfied, the candidates that are dissatisfied, cannot approach the courts to request, you know, to seek redress, because it is an internal, you know, party stuff. It's an internal party movement, organization in such a way that elections are done internally and selections are done internally. So the court will not interfere into that kind of, you know, system. So it is so sure that the leaders will probably have to step in and ensure that they settle all parties and ensure that they are compensated and well compensated, you know, before the general election.
All right, Gbenga Edema, legal practitioner and political analyst. Once again, thank you for your time on the news.
Thank you for having me.
Let's move away from that. The governor of Delta State, South Nigeria, Sheriff Oborevwori, has finally visited the Okwama community 5 weeks after 17 soldiers were ambushed and killed. The governor, who was accompanied by some government officials, reiterated that innocent citizens would not be made to suffer for what they know nothing about. News Central's correspondent, Austin Azu, tells us more.
Okwama, Delta State, has been under a dark cloud since March 14, following the tragic killing of 17 soldiers. Fear gripped the community, forcing residents to flee for their safety. The Nigerian military designated Okwama a crisis zone, restricting access for everyone, including the governor. This decision was met with criticism, with many organizations demanding media access to document the situation.
Access by the media is a crime scene, even in civil crime. You see, they will tape it everywhere. So that is a crime scene. Investigation has not been concluded. So we are still, I don't think it would be appropriate for you, anybody, to go there and interfere with investigation.
After 5 weeks, Delta State Governor Sheriff Obrewori, accompanied by military officials, finally visited Okwama. Speaking to journalists, the governor reassured that his administration is actively working to resolve the underlying disputes. He also offered hope for the displaced residents, stating their imminent return.
Why I've come here to see how the people, the innocent people, can be relocated back with the cooperation of the military. We know it's very painful for this great loss, and you have to follow a process. That's what we are following. In that process, we are healing the wound, because also too they are so very bitter. The army is so very bitter. So we will manage them. So the issue is this. They assured me, Mr. President, the Chief of Army Staff, assured that no innocent person will be victimized. So the process of relocating them back is on the second process. We are on it already. We will bring them back. We are talking with the military. So it's not a day job.
News Central remains committed to providing regular updates. Recall our previous report highlighting the initial unrest in Okwama. The pathway to normalcy for Okwama may be long, but News Central will continue to follow the developments and hold authorities accountable for a peaceful resolution and the well-being of the displaced community. In Delta State, for News Central, Austin Azu.
Barely 2 weeks after the mysterious death of an officer cadet in a hotel in Umuahia, a 24-year-old student of Federal Polytechnic, Uganda, Chinedu Hope, has died after being allegedly drugged by a group of young men from his hometown in Adegboye in Umuahia North local government area of Abia State. Reports indicate Chinedu was taken from his family home by his close friend Daniel, also from Adegboye. Now, News Central steward Ogele visited the Hope family to understand the details surrounding this heartbreaking story.
It is a grief-laden atmosphere in the late Chinedu's family house as his parents narrate how they learned about their son's death.
Gawa na bonko. Asna Chinedu puru na bonko. Ma yoko. Onye nwe bonko se. Na wonya wala batara eba. Na nga anwu ihe a. Chinedu si yoko. Na ga anwu. Na da anwu ihe nda. Yoko si keke Chinedu ediri. Dan ha ke Chinedu ediri. Dan bira bia kporo Chinedu nga. Keke Chinedu ediri. Me say eyes. Me say jiko. Were ngaji gbawa ya ọnụ wụghala ya ha
na onwe girl o na ache lo na ofu iche onwe n'ezie ka gara aga meche me ihe nọ na list ihe ndị alile ya hụta my son batara my son ya na otu esi mezisiere ya my son na-apụ ezi eto ya bịa tụrụ ya pụọ time anọ menwe ma nọ ya duru nwa m pụọ
Chinedu Hope, a 300-level student of Federal Polytechnic's Owana, died on the same day he turned 24, leaving behind his heartbroken family, including a pregnant wife. His family describe him as an enterprising and focused young man who minded his business.
So I as part of family.
Police in Abia State say they have apprehended Daniel Otochere alongside others linked to the crime while investigations go on. Behind Yoko's house is his bunk, believed to be where Chinedu was drugged until he lost consciousness. The father wants the government to look into the menace of substance abuse by young people. This is one death too many in recent times in Abia State that has left families devastated, but also exposed some societal ills involving young people. It is therefore a wake-up call for the government and the society to do more in combating substance abuse, discouraging bullying, and also arresting and suing culprits to serve as deterrent to others. In Ondo Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Really tragic story there. But coming up on the news, Ugandan businesses reopen after a 4-day tax strike. We have details of this and more after the break. Welcome back. Let's tell you that at least 58 persons going to a funeral died after their overloaded riverboat capsized in the Central African Republic's capital, Bangui. Now, head of the Civil Protection Agency, Thomas Njamase, who confirmed the incident on Saturday, said 58 lifeless bodies were extracted from the water. According to witness, the boat was carrying more than 300 persons, some standing and others perched on wooden structures, when it sank on the Mboko River on Friday. The vessel was heading to the funeral of a village chief, but got into difficulty shortly after setting off. Rescue service arrived 40 minutes after the disaster. The head of East Africa, we head to East Africa, where, of course, Kenyan officials have attended a military honors ceremony for General Francis Omondi Ogola, the Defense Force chief killed in a helicopter crash. Ogola and 9 other senior officials were killed when their helicopter went down shortly after takeoff in a remote forested area of northwestern Kenya. The family said in a statement that a funeral will be held on Sunday at Ogola's home in Siaya in the west of the country, following a memorial service in Nairobi suburb on April 26th.
Over the course of my life in the public service, I have had the privilege to meet, interact, and work with many outstanding men and women whose achievements and visions represent the best of what Kenya has to offer. General Ogola was in a very special class. We are here to say bye-bye to a consummate military officer.
Businesses in major towns and cities across Uganda reopened on Saturday after a 4-day strike against high taxes and a newly enforced revenue collection system. The action was launched by the Federation of Ugandan Traders Association Tuesday and spread from the capital, Kampala, to many other parts of the country. Shops and other businesses, including butchers, bakers, and eateries, had closed, protesting at high interest rate and taxes with VAT at 18% and a new levy on imported clothing. On Friday, representatives of the shopkeepers met President Yoweri Museveni, who directed that all penalties should be suspended by the URA, the tax body, for the meantime, to give room for wider consultations. Up next is business news.
Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has expressed optimism about the performance of the Naira at the forex market, saying it will appreciate more as the dollar continues to crash. He stated this when a delegation from the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, led by its president, Gabriel Idahosa, paid him a courtesy visit at the presidential villa in Abuja. According to a statement on Saturday by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications, Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nkwocha, Shettima noted that the Tinubu administration's decision to end fuel subsidy and unify the multiple exchange rates was necessary to address the challenges facing the country. Noting the dollar will further crash against the Naira, the Vice President said the President knows the game, and now that the Naira is gaining, the difference will drop further. Meanwhile, the Naira is facing renewed pressure, with the official exchange rate falling to a 6-day low against the US dollar. This is the weakest it has been since April 8, when the official rate closed at 1,230 Naira 61 kobo to a dollar, suggesting downward pressure ahead of the weekend. The exchange rate at the official window strengthened at 1,072 Naira 4 kobo on Wednesday, the lowest since January 2024, as the Apex Bank stepped up sales to bureau de change operators on the retail end of the market. This suggests that the exchange rate dropped to 8.3% in just 2 days. However, the sudden weakness in the Naira coincided with a lower daily turnover of $86 million on Friday, the lowest since February 16, when the market recorded a forex turnover of just $84 million. The International Monetary Fund says economic growth in the sub-Saharan Africa is projected to rise from 3.4% in 2023 to 3.8% in 2024. Abibi Selassie, director of the African Department, International Monetary Fund, said this at a news briefing on the IMF's Regional Economic Outlook for SSA, titled A Tepid and Pricey Recovery in Washington, D.C. Selassie said economic recovery was expected to continue beyond 2024, with growth projections reaching 4.0% in 2025. He said further, fiscal consolidation efforts were starting to pay off, with the median public debt stabilizing at around 60% of gross domestic product, halting a 10-year upward trend. And that's all on business news. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.
Onyechi Barrow is next with sports news.
In the world of sport, Nigerian chess master Tunde Onokoye and his American counterpart Sean Martinez have hit the mark of the longest chess marathon, enduring a strenuous 60-hour match. This remarkable achievement highlights their extraordinary stamina and skills in the world of chess. Both players, recognized as national masters, battled it out in a match that tested endurance and skill, with each move contributing to their historic achievement. In a statement from Onokoya's foundation, Chess in the Slums Africa, it was revealed that the duo will share the title for the longest chess game ever recorded. Onokoya took to his X account on Saturday to praise Martinez, highlighting his significant role in their joint success.
You know, my good brother here, Sean Martinez, please let's give him a round of applause.
And now tonight, man, this is a special man right here. He doesn't look at what he receives, he doesn't look at anything. All he looks at is the future of the children, and I love his heart. And when I heard I was able to collaborate with him on this, I said yes right away, and I'm glad I did.
French-American basketball player John Walter Wilkins is expressing high hopes for his team, the Rivers Hoopers, as they prepare for the 2024 Basketball Africa League. Wilkins, the son of former NBA star Geoff Wilkins, has joined his team at their training camp in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. With the Savannah Conference games set to commence on Saturday, May 4th in Dakar, Senegal, Wilkins is optimistic about his chances. Having experienced African basketball with teams in Morocco and a third-place finish with Stade Malien in the last year's Basketball Africa League, Wilkins is familiar with the competitive level in the league. Moroccan football club Aris Barkane have resolved their jersey disputes that put the team in predicament upon their arrival in Algiers for the crucial CAF Confederation Cup semi-final match. The issue involved RS Berkane's official team jersey, which prominently displayed the map of the Kingdom of Morocco. This inclusion sparked controversy with Algerian customs officials, leading to the complications upon the team's arrival. After being held for hours at the airport, the team complied late Friday night with a request from the Confederation of African Football CAF to leave the airport. RS Berkane can now go ahead to face Algerian club USM Alger in the first leg of the CAF Confederation Cup semi-final on Sunday evening. Finally, in the world of sport, Lesile Tibogo faced his first defeat of the season as Courtney Lindsay surged to victory in the scorching personal best and the world lead time of 1971 seconds at the Cape Keno Classics. The rising American sprinter took control from the start, dominating the curve and crossing the finish line first, just edging out talented Botswana athletes, despite both recording identical times. This is Lindsay's second 200 meters race for the season. His stunning personal best not only secured a memorable win, but also put the global track community on notice, signaling him as the formidable challenger for this season. Arriving in Kenya with an already impressive world-leading time of 1988 seconds, Lindsay's jaw-dropping improvement to 1971 seconds shattered his previous personal best of 1985 seconds. At just 25 years old, his remarkable progress signifies serious intentions in the Olympic for this year. And that's it in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro.
And that's a wrap on the news at this time. But before we go, another look at some of our top stories. We told you that violence and complaints of foul play mar APC's governorship primary in Ondo State. Kenyan government honors Defense Force chief killed in helicopter crash. And we also told you that 58 die after overloaded boat capsizes in Central African Republic. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live also across these platforms. That's DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Abo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Dapo Adegboye. Good night.